Hello and welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. I'm Tosca Di Matteo, founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and I'm so excited for the conversation today about bringing joy into your life and co-creating your best life. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Irma Cedeno, and I'm just waiting for her to join. And hey, Yai, nice to see you. Hello, Allison. Thanks for joining. We're talking about living a life with joy, and that in and of itself, I think, is rebellious, right? Like we're told so much about, like, we have to have blood, sweat, and tears to make it all work. But Irma is here to tell us quite the opposite. So I'm going to bring her on now. I see her in the room and invite her to join. So glad you're all here today. This is exciting. And she's joining now. Hello, Irma.
My friend, how are you?
Oh my God, I'm so excited you're here with me today.
You.
Woo!
Usually when I do a panel or anything like that, it's always like talking about business and talking about how to inspire others to start their own business, especially how to inspire our youth, right? So it's so much fun to just talk about being happy.
Oh my God, yes, and you are like the epitome of that. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for those who are here today joining live and
Yeah.
for those who will see us after the fact. And just as a quick, I kind of started talking a little bit before you joined, but I do this platform for a number of reasons, right? It's all like for me, it's about self-development. It's about helping people to live their best life and bringing different voices and perspectives to the table that may offer something different, a different perspective, or just say things in a certain way that touches people, so that we can, yeah, so that we can be joyous and live our best life. And, Irma, I just want to, take a minute here to honor how critical that you have actually been in my journey, even of entrepreneurship, and also in my own self-discovery, which I shared a little bit about in social kind of leading up to this. But, when I was taking your Spanish class years ago, and I just was being so hard on myself, like literally crying in class. And it's not like I needed to learn this for my, to save my life. It was like I was doing this, to like,
Because
for
you're
my
young,
own
right?
satisfaction. Yeah. And you were like, honey, like you're being so hard on yourself. And I ended up having I don't think I told you all of this, but I ended up having a conversation with a woman who worked for me at the time and said, wow, my teacher said, and she was like, you think? And then I had this whole other realization about what it meant to be hard on myself in relation to others and what impact that had. So, you know, that's just one story of how you've impacted me. But also, the other quick thing I want to share is that you like introduced me to my first client in my business because of your heart and your belief in me without needing this whole hoopla. It was just like women supporting women, and you knew who I was, and you were like, oh my God, yeah, you're gonna be awesome, and like go do this. So that's my very long-winded way of really trying to honor you in my life, how much you mean to me and how grateful I am for you to be on this show to share your message with us, that we so need to learn more about how to live a life filled with joy. So with no further ado, I want to hand it over to you for you to share with us what you want about who you are, what you're passionate about, what brings you to this place and this topic, and just kind of take it away for us, Irma.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm so happy that I've played a very small role in just helping you with your business. But you're fantastic. So it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and be part of your journey, and my mom says the secret to living is giving. And
Mm,
says that the person who really feels the joy is the actual giver. And
mm,
so I definitely feel that joy. And so I'm Irma, and I'm a two-time entrepreneur. I have a fashion business, and I also have a language business. I'm a forever learner. That's how I describe myself. I'm always learning something new. I'm a traveler, and I'm an explorer. I'm very happy to be talking about something like joy because I definitely think that in times like this, we definitely need it.
Yes, yes. And, you know, your disposition to that, right? Like people say, right? Oh, just find joy in every moment. And like it's kind of, it's become this like joy to me has kind of almost become a cliche word, or a cliche concept of like living in joy in the moment. And so I'd love to hear more about like what does that mean for you?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I definitely think that you have to live in the moment and live every moment, but there's also that sense of long-term joy and long-term happiness. And one of the things that
Mm,
I talked to you about before was about how one of the first things that I find important is tapping into that child in you, who you were when you were a kid, before you were afraid, before you
mm,
started to judge yourself, and just look at how kids are. They
mm,
enjoy every moment. They look at a sunset and they think it's beautiful. You know, they're so not judgmental. They don't tell themselves that they don't like their hair or that they don't like their body or that they're too fat. And when we were kids, we had dreams that had no limits.
mm,
Absolutely no limits. We wanted to be astronauts. We wanted to be actresses. We wanted to be famous writers. And I think it's important to honor who we were, because even
mm,
though you might not necessarily want to be that anymore, it gives you a sense of who you are. So for me, I did have to, once I had achieved a certain level of success in terms of my business, I did want to kind of tap back into those dreams from when I was a kid. And one of them was actually to write. You know, I wanted to write a book and I wanted to publish a book. And I remember when I was a kid, there was like no stopping me. I used to go to the library. This was before computers. I used to go to the library every Saturday, and I was everyone's best friend at the library because I was the only person there making an appointment. And I was just like typing my book, And, this is 10-year-old me. I was super nerdy, and I used to leave space for the future illustrator. I thought they were going to like literally put it.
I love it. The vision was so vivid. Yes.
Oh my gosh. And, I really think I was really smart because what I did was I went to my favorite books, my favorite
Mm.
children's books, and I actually submitted the book to my favorite publishers. And that's where I got my first two rejection letters of my life. One for being 10 years old, and the other one for sending in a book that wasn't even in English. It was actually in Spanish because I didn't speak English. Um, but going back to that, it's definitely something that I wanted to tap back into, and that now I'm redoing.
Oh my gosh. There's so much in there that I love and I want to like speak to, and bring out more. But first of all, this idea of going back to like what you enjoyed as a kid and what were your dreams, it's something also that, I work with clients on, right? Because when we've lost our way, we've lost ourselves,
Yeah.
we can find so much truth in what's at our core by going backwards before like the world kind of conditioned us into like squeezing the life out of our dreams. So I love that you shared that because I think is a really great tool, even if you just start listing out like what are the things that I used to love. And it can be anything from jump rope to like right
Right.
to like jumping in puddles. And even if you can find a nugget within there to go back to and say, shit, I'm gonna go for a walk in the rain. And that can even, I think, help bring you back to yourself.
There are so many moments of joy, and I have the honor of having two nieces and two nephews. One is already 20, so he doesn't quite count, but the other ones, we have a 7-year-old, and when she was about 5, she used to say things like, look at this sunset, this is the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. And you're like, okay, you're 5, how many have you know or we have like a 3-year-old, and one of the things we do is when we get together, I don't allow them to watch TV. So they're allowed to listen to music and they're allowed to read books, but they can't watch TV. So one of the things we do is while I clean, they get to like actually request songs, and then they can dance to the songs. And the 2-year-old was like, that's my song. like, a song was just playing. She's like, that's my song. And you're like, wait, I haven't even heard this song before. And you're like, so how is that your song? But she's just living the moment. And I think life just gives us all these opportunities to really just live the moment and enjoy that moment. And sometimes we're just too busy to really look at that. And before we were adults, we were able to just play. I mean, it was all about playing, right? Now it's all about being adults.
Yeah, and that idea of play makes me also think about how, and we kind of glossed over it, but I just want to also go back and pause a little bit on the fact that you own two fantastic, amazing businesses, right? Language Diafano, am I saying it right?
Okay.
Diafano Language Learning or Learning Systems, I believe is the technical, and the Main Couture beautiful line of skirts. And when I first saw your line of skirts, I was like, OMG, I need me one of those. Like I'm not kidding, right? And like it's been
Our
on the back of
customers all say that.
it's
I
like the
know our
back of my
customers.
mind, the back of my mind. And and I'm just so glad that I finally pulled the trigger and I made it happen. And part of what I think what's so beautiful about those skirts is like it feels so playful. Like
Yeah.
and it feels so like let me just celebrate me because I'm I'm awesome and I'm beautiful. I mean that's kind of what it says to me and the care of which the detail of which you've designed those and they're being created, by hand and just like everything about how you built that business feels like love and play, um, in addition to culture and all those other values that you have. But the other part of what I was going to say about that is your two businesses, your book that you're writing, and like, hello, any publishers out there? I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
knock,
yeah,
knock. Um, but that by doing all of these things that bring you joy, right? By not choosing, but by saying I'm going to do them all, just in due time, to me is a way of like allowing for joy because kids don't have limitations on like what they go and do and like discover um, in
kids are
terms of their own mind,
they take
right?
dance lessons and they take piano lessons and they go to school and they do so many things except work.
Right, right.
you know so that's one of the things about the way I designed my life. It was really important to me to do the things I loved, and everything that I've done out of love. And
Mhm.
I was created my clothing line, and when we met with the photographer and we had the models in, one of the things I said was, what I want this line to say and these photos to say is freedom. I am here. I am unique. I am feminine, and I love being me, and I deserve this place in the world. So it's definitely a clothing line that was made out of love. And I would say the same about the language company. We have a policy of every student counts.
Mhm.
So we're very love centered, people
Mhm.
centric. And I find that, in my life, I've tried not to say I'm only going to focus on this. I always focus on multiple things.
Mhm.
And it was very helpful to me to have a family who didn't pressure me into getting married, didn't pressure me into having kids, didn't set timelines for me, because that allowed me to just be more free and explore more. And isn't that what life is
Mhm.
supposed to be? Isn't it supposed to be about you exploring and having fun and creating your life every day and creating yourself every day? Like, I don't actually think we have a set personality, for example. We change every day.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you shared about, right? There's some things, not just like culturally, right, that may get indoctrinated into us about what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to focus on and who we're supposed to be, but also just even in, we've talked before about like your family unit and just the entrepreneurial spirit and just being in an environment of like learning and doing. And I mean at 10 years old, you're like submitting for a book to publish. So I think there's something beautiful about like that, being encouraged at a young age. And how much do you attribute your positive outlook and this view of bringing joy to kind of nature versus nurture? Because I think a lot of people struggle with coming from that place of let me find joy everywhere and let me go after all the things that I'm passionate about. I'm curious what you think fostered that for you.
I definitely think that I was very fortunate. I mean, my family is very, very kind, very sweet, very supportive, and I never got, I know sometimes you get this thing where you have a family that tells you, oh, you can't do that, or what makes you think you could do that, or why would you think you could build your own business? Like, that's gonna fail. I never
Mm,
had that from them. In fact, I had the opposite. Hey, you're really good at that. Why don't you? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that right now, but maybe. So I was very, very lucky in that sense. I do think that we're four sisters, and I do think that at least two of us were kind of naturally inclined towards being just always happy. I wouldn't necessarily say I was one of them, because I do remember myself as being more like the quiet kid, the kid who just kind of watched before playing. But it's a skill that you
mm,
kind learn as you grow older, to be
mm.
honest, to just enjoy the moment and enjoy your life and enjoy yourself. And for me, um,
Excuse
learning
me.
to be happy is a little bit like learning how to walk,
Mm.
or going to the gym. It's like a muscle that you make stronger. um, that's not to say I'm always happy. The idea of like always being happy, I don't know if that's possible, but I would say that the majority of the time, if we think about what we do or who we are most of the time, I'm in a happy place.
Mm. Yes, yes. I love that you talked about it. Excuse me, I have a tickle as a practice and a skill as something that you foster. And that, yeah, like it's okay if that's not your predisposition in life, but
Right.
like, how do you bring more of that mentality about that in? And I loved, yeah, when I heard you say, right, the kind of support that you got was you didn't get reality checks, right? You
No,
didn't
I
get your
didn't.
family saying like,
I think I need
well,
a reality check. Someone needs to give me a reality check one of these days.
yeah. And I think also just as we're talking, like it's also about how do we encourage, right? Like not just within ourselves, but also like how do we not dampen the dreams of others? Because I think we behave in that same way, you know?
Right. Right.
Um,
And I think
yeah.
to other people's
Uh,
when it comes to other people's dreams, it's also that you have to be a little bit tactful, because you never know how much you're going to impact them. Um, you know, I mean, I remember having a friend that I gave her an opinion about something, and next time I saw her, she was like, "Well, I broke up with him." Like we had this conversation, but I think in general, I know one of my sisters, for example, when you tell
yeah,
um,
pardon me, I missed a
my
little bit of that because my my technology was giving me a hard time. Are you still there?
okay. Yes, I'm right here. I was saying that for one of my sisters, for example, if you talk to her about what your dreams are, she'll talk to you about the possibilities, you know, as opposed to talking to you about the limitations. And I think that's important, because how many times haven't we heard about someone who had a dream or had an idea, and so many people told her or him that it wasn't a good idea, and it maybe doesn't even sound like a good idea, but then it goes super big, so you just never really know. So I definitely think that we need to also nurture other people's dreams. um, but one thing that helped me in terms of how to grow that muscle, that happiness muscle, was I started to meditate, and that was extremely helpful. And I think for the first 4 years or so, it felt like I was getting nowhere, and it's not until now that it actually feels like I'm actually moving forward with it. Did you miss part of what I said?
Yeah, and I, you're back now, and I want to make sure that people like if for those on, let us know if you if you were able to hear that. Yeah, I just sorry about that. I disconnected from my Wi-Fi in hopes that that helps. So I see you now,
I see. I
and
hear
I
you.
hear you,
Just
I think.
But one of the things
Okay.
that are you hearing me okay? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I was saying was like starting a meditation practice was extremely helpful to me. And
Oh.
I started about 4 years ago, and it was very difficult at the beginning, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I don't think you ever really know what you're doing when you're meditating, to be honest. But
Yes.
one of the things that we did was we visited a monastery, and we
Mhm.
went to this monastery in Woodstock. And when we were there, we were doing a personal retreat, which was actually we wanted to be at the monastery, but we didn't want to do the work of being at a monastery. So we decided to do a personal retreat. So we were very surprised when
Mm.
they showed up with a schedule for us that included waking up at like 5 a.m. to meditate. And we were like, okay, not exactly what a personal retreat really entails to us, but so we did that, and we met up with the Kempo, who's the president of the monastery. And we were like, okay, well, why does the president of the monastery want to meet up with us? Either we're really special or there's just something wrong. So we met up with him. He's the most peaceful guy ever, man, ever. And he's having a tea ceremony with us. And it was lovely. And I said, one of us said, it was my sister and I, Kempo, there's something that we have to ask you, and it's really, really important. And he said, what? And we said, what is your purpose? Because we're trying to find our purpose. So it's really important to us to know what your purpose is. Um, and we had like the drum roll right in there because he was ready to answer the question, and we were like waiting for this like really big moment and to really feel like, oh my gosh, of course you have such a big purpose because you're the Kempo. And he comes back and he tells us to enjoy every moment. That's my
Mm.
purpose. And then of course I think I turned to my sister and was like, that's my purpose. But if that was his purpose,
Right.
right? Why do we need to be so hard on ourselves when it comes to our
Mm.
purpose?
Yes, yes, I love that story, and I think that we myself included, I think we can you know put this pressure on ourselves with this like this word purpose can be
Mhm.
very heavy and very big,
Yeah,
right?
heavy word, right? It's
Um,
loaded.
yeah, it's loaded, and I think it can you know if we break it down like in that moment choice, right? Like what will bring me joy right now, or what is it that I feel called to do in this moment or in this week or in this month? And that is enough. Like, there doesn't have to be this like huge master overarching and I think also that allows for a lot of like play in the moment. Like if we think about life, about this moment and not so like, you know, um, gigantic and even from a time measurement standpoint, then if we're making the best choices we can in the moment, we'll figure out some of the bigger pieces. We'll figure out some of the bigger steps of what we really want to bring in our lives. And sometimes just starting really small is perfect.
Right. And we're often very harsh with ourselves, but if it was our friend in our shoes,
Mhm.
it would be so
Mhm.
much nicer to them, you know?
Yes.
So, I think if you're ever in a position where you are judging yourself, think about like your friend asking you for advice on something. Would you be like, you shouldn't have done that? Or would you be like, oh, you should
Right.
be nice to yourself? It's okay to make mistakes. Forgive yourself. It's fine, you know?
Yeah.
But I really do think that the idea of creating your life as you explore your life to make life just your canvas where you're drawing on it. You're the director of your own film, you're the writer of your own book, and just write it and direct it and film it and act in it as you go along. Have fun with it and know that you're
Mm.
not going to get out of this life alive.
Mm.
I think you'll be fine.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And it makes me think of, because the part of this conversation was this co-creating, right? Like co-creating your best life, right? So what do you mean by that? What do we mean by that? Like, how do you see that as part of this, like, special sauce of life?
Well, I think that you're never creating anything by yourself. I don't think anything is ever truly achieved by yourself. We have people who definitely influence us. We have mentors, we have friends, we have our parents, whether it was their encouragement or their disencouragement, whatever it was, that always affects us, right? Um, so you're always co-creating, no matter what. I think I'm co-creating all the time with my mom, with my sisters. Every time I get advice from them, every time we have a conversation, I'm co-creating with you right now, right? But there's also another part, which is, how the universe helps you co-create.
Mm.
What part does the universe play in everything? And I remember I lived in Japan for a year, and it was fantastic. I wouldn't change it for the world, but it was very challenging. I went there. I was the only foreigner on an island of 17,000 people. I didn't really speak the language. I was everyone's first foreign friend, which is a very great honor. But at the same time, have you ever been outside where you can't read what signs say? It's
Mm.
very, very difficult. It's very frustrating, and there's no insulation, so it's always cold in the winter, always, no matter where you are. And so I was going through a difficult time, definitely. And one day they had a meeting at the auditorium, and they were going to bring Naomi Yamasaki, who is the second Japanese woman to fly in space. And she was going to come and she was going to talk, and everyone was excited, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to understand anything she says, but this is going to be fantastic. So she's there and she's doing her presentation, and she's talking about space cookies, and I know because there are pictures of it. Fascinated by it. But I'm not understanding the rest of her speech because my Japanese was not advanced enough to actually understand it. And all of a sudden, she goes into the serenity prayer. She goes, God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the ones I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I was like, oh my gosh, did the universe just send me like the second woman to ever fly in space to tell me this?
Wow.
I mean, she said this in English. I was the only person in that audience who was going to understand that out of 200 people. So I think
Mm.
I just read this book about the law of attraction, and it talks about obvious actions versus inspired actions. So obvious
Mm.
actions are things that you know how to get done. So you know how to get a college degree, you know how to become a doctor, how to become a lawyer. You can go on Google and write, how do I become a doctor? And it's going to send you all the steps, right? An inspired action is everything else. It's kind
Mm.
of like, you wake up in the morning and you suddenly want to go for a walk. You don't know why. You usually don't go for a walk, but you suddenly want to go for a walk. So all those little things are part of inspired action. And to me, those are little messages from the universe, little messages that the universe sends you that say, go do that. Go have fun. Go enjoy. Who knows who you're going to meet when you go on that walk? Who knows what next idea you're going to get? I get a lot of ideas, for example, when I'm about to fall asleep. I get amazing
Mm.
ideas when I'm about to fall asleep. And I'm like, where did this idea come from? And I think part of that is co-creating. We're co-creating all
Mm.
the time. But I do like the term inspired action. My sister says, my other sister, I have three sisters, says that when it comes to making money and things like that, it's kind of straightforward how you can go about it and achieve it. But she says love is not. Finding your soulmate is not, right?
Mm.
Um, and to me, that's like a great example of inspire action many times, because how many people don't meet their loved ones, their future husband or their partner when they're out in the supermarket, or they just run into them in the street, or they're introduced to them by someone at a party. Um, and I just find that fascinating, the idea of co-creating, which, by the way, is a term that you and I basically came up with last time we spoke.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I love all of that. This inspired action as part of it, and this idea, I think what was popping up for me, and as you're talking about it too, is this idea of like we're not alone in the journey of our path, right, and of our joy, and that part of it, I don't know, is to me is a surrender, right? To say like that I don't have to worry about figuring it all out, certainly not all at once. And that even those messages, right, that we get from ourselves, and we can also kind of consider the possibility that it's coming from a greater source than us, right, from a magical place, from an inspired place. And that is a message that, if we're paying attention to, is information in
Right.
that co-creation, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and I think that what can be easy is we can dismiss it. And personally, right? Like I know for a long time, like I would get little, feelings about things or something I wanted to do, and maybe I didn't always act on it because my rational brain came in, and my rational brain was like, why would you do that? And so like I didn't. And then I think over time I learned that like, oh, actually, like that came from my heart space, that came from a co-created space, and I should absolutely do that. In fact, I should put that above everything else on my list.
Right. And like for example, what about people who have been friends for a really long time and then they fall in love? It's like, what
Right.
happened there? What happened there?
Yes.
Did they actually change? Did you
Right.
change?
Mm.
Um, or did you just not see them because you
Yes.
missed all the signs? Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, you are constantly getting messages from the universe. And I definitely believe in manifesting. Um, I
Mm.
think I'm a good manifester. I want to get better. I want to become a top manifester. Um, but you define how that's going to be. And for me, the idea of surrendering is definitely important, and the idea of putting things out there in terms of what it is that you want, but then and doing what you have to do to push it in that direction to help achieve that, but at the same time kind of stepping back and letting it go. I think that part
Right.
is really important, to not be so attached to the outcome, because when you're so
Mm.
attached to the outcome, you cannot be possibly enjoying the moment.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I talk about that all the time too. I love that. And I think that there's a special sauce, I think, that happens. Like there's, right, because some of these things that we talk about, right, about surrendering and these, I think it's I don't know, for me it's been something of a process to be like, yeah, what? Huh? And I think that there's some people that live their lives very much on the, you know, head in the sky, right? Like it should just happen for me because I'm desiring it, so it shall be. And then there's also like, but there's also the side of this groundedness, right? And this
Right.
action, right? And that we still have willpower, we still have free will. And so, I think for me, I look at it like, where's the healthy blend? Like, where's the healthy blend of letting go and allowing and also taking actions that are in alignment with who we are and what we desire. And to me, I think when you're living your life with that integration, it can be really, you can experience magic like every day.
Right, right. And I think the idea of manifesting is particularly difficult probably for doers, people who like to get things done, people who
Right.
work really hard and who are overachievers. I think the downside of being a doer is like you become so attached to the result that you
Mm,
end up disappointed. Um,
mm,
because if you think about it, the results should be based on the actions, right?
mm,
And all your actions were in that direction. Um, but I think that when you start to find that blend that you're talking about, of
mm.
I do my share, but I'm enjoying the journey. The journey is a big part of it. The result is important, but it's not as important as enjoying every moment. When you are not so attached to it, um, it's
Yeah,
easier on you. It's easier to make good things happen when
yeah.
you're working from a good place, you know.
Yes, yes, and I'm tying this to like a conversation I like had earlier, and um, you where you said, I love what your, I think it came from your mom, like the secret to living is giving, and also I think that especially women, right? We tend to overgive, or we give from empty cups. And then what that can lead to resentment, right? And then the energy behind how we're living our life is not in service of us first and foremost, which I think to me we have to put ourselves first as
Right.
we're right to bring to fruition what we want. And so I'm curious, and I know how giving you are, and I'm curious if in your life you've ever had to take a step back and say, oh, oh my gosh, I'm totally overgiving, and now I'm like resenting some of this, or like, has that happened to you where you have
Yeah.
to kind of
So
step back?
I definitely think we've all been through situations where we've been hurt, scarred, where we've been disappointed, but there's always a role we play in there,
Mm,
and there are people who are unfortunately takers, and
mm,
you just have to kind of know, like, how much is it okay to give where you don't feel
mm,
resentful if you don't get anything back. If
yeah.
I do something for you and I'm expecting something back, it's not really a gift anymore.
Mm,
It's a gift when it's okay for you not to do anything back for me as well. So I definitely had moments like that, and of course I realized that the person, the more I gave, the more they took. That was just
mm-hmm,
part of the process. But eventually I did step back, and I realized that wasn't the person I wanted to be. Uh,
mm,
there has to be a balance at the end of the day, and we don't all need to give in the same way.
mm,
Um, some people, I feel like every person in my life fulfills a different purpose. And some people help me with my personal life, and some people help me with my business, and some people are just fun people that I like being around because they raise my energy.
mm,
Um, some people I just like being around them. But it's really important to kind of make sure at the end of the day that the people you have around you are people who are not negative, who are not draining your energy, who are not toxic people. You know, that is something that I have very clear. I'm very good at firing people if
yes.
they're not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing.
I love that notion. Yeah, because you mentioned it. I actually circled it before we got on the call. I was like, oh, fire people from your life. Talk to me about that, because let's go deeper. Let's go deeper, because I think that can be very hard, or it can feel harsh, or you can feel like, oh crap, what'll happen if I let this person go, or I'll feel lonely, or what, like, tell me more about this philosophy, and like, any stories that you may have to share, like when did you realize you had to start doing that?
I think sometimes it happens naturally, right? I think sometimes, you know, if you stay in a certain kind of situation, sometimes the world helps you. Maybe they walk away on their own. Maybe they find a different distraction, quote unquote. But I think if you look at it as a business, if someone is not doing the job they're supposed to be doing in a business setting, you would give them a performance review in which you would tell them, these are the places where you're doing okay, and these are the places where you're exceeding, excelling, and then these are the places where you're definitely lacking, right? And we need to do that with every person in our life.
Mm,
So why are we so willing to do that at a business, but when it comes to our lives, we're not so inclined to do it? Maybe because it's
yeah.
close to our hearts. Maybe that's why it's more difficult. But
Mm.
when I had to do that in my business, I did it. I've done it a few times, and sometimes it's been tactfully, sometimes it hasn't.
You live and learn, right? You live and learn how to do,
I
like,
learned. Same in my
yeah.
personal life. Sometimes it's been the universe just kind of helps us each go in a different direction. But there have been times that it hasn't been so tactful. I think obviously you get older and you get wiser most of the time. So I try not to hold any grudges. So I don't. I think probably these are people that I've forgotten about to some degree, but I've definitely fired here and there. But
Yeah.
maybe they think they fired me. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that, right, I think that what happens, right, when you raise your vibration and just simply put, right, when you allow more joy into your life, right? I think when you like, let's just say like you're getting to that place, right, where you're like, I'm gonna love myself more, and I'm gonna give myself more permission to do things that make me happy and all this stuff, right? And so your vibration is raised because you're getting to the highest version of yourself. And what happens is you could then find yourself realizing that the people that you used to be around don't want to be around. They want to stay in the lower, right? They want to stay complaining, or they want to stay, not happy, or maybe they don't want to celebrate you because that's just who they are, right? And so I think, that's part of growth. I think that when you are elevating your game and yourself, that other people may not come with you at the same pace or at the same time, and like, and and there's kind of, I don't know, to me it's like, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me there's part like, oh, I'm growing, right? If I can be aware, oh, and also, oh, right, that doesn't serve me anymore. That's part of like what was dragging me down. And we can mourn it and grieve it, what we have lost in that relationship that maybe was good, but we can also celebrate to say, I'm playing a bigger game now. I'm not
Right.
messing around. I'm not, I'm living my best life.
I mean, when you switch jobs, you're not crying over it. You move on to a better job. You're like, forget that old job. That goes on my resume now. Great. But
Yeah.
you're enjoying the new job. You're looking forward to the training, to meeting the new people, to
Yeah.
meeting new colleagues, learning new things. You're thinking about the next role you're going to fulfill. So you're always in our minds. We know pretty clear how jobs work and how business works. But how do we take that and also use it in our lives? Because I think it's also in our lives where we need to step up our games. Sometimes we need to take the proper training, interact with certain, talk to your boss. Who's your boss? Is it the universe? Is it God? Uh,
Mm.
like, what is it that you need in order to make the most out of this
Mm.
job or your life?
Oh, and I love this because it feels like a great segue to taking risks, which I know is a big part of your journey.
Yes.
And I think that, yeah, like, so talk to me about risk taking and like your feelings on that.
Well, I've always been a risk taker. I always have. I think that's been me my whole life, and it was very helpful to have a family who just kind of encouraged me and didn't think I was in any way strange. But I was the kind of person who, when I was young, didn't want to have a boss. Like, my dream job was without a boss. I wanted to have my own boss. I wanted to live on my own terms, create my own hours, make my own money, travel as I wanted to travel. And luckily, those are all things that I have achieved, which is great. I never had a full-time job. My entire existence, I've never had a full-time job, except when I lived in Japan for a year, which my friend just called like a year-long vacation, even though I was supposed. Uh, but and I remember like going to Japan and coming back and thinking, I'm 27. I should, maybe it's time I focus. Maybe I need to actually like do the real thing and be part of corporate America and whatnot. And I mentioned to you that I went to NYU, my alma mater, and I took a test with a counselor. I took different tests to find out what my passions were and what I loved, and what I could do, what kind of career I should have in the future. And one of the things I got back was circus performer. And it was like, first of all, I love the circus, so it was like right on. It's like, I love circus. But the really trying to sell me was like,
Mm.
I really enjoy adventure. I
Mm.
like taking risks. I was the type of person who, I was living in Spain and I woke up one day and I was like, I want to go to Morocco. So I went to Morocco that weekend, and I didn't really have a lot of money, but I found a way to get there. I took a ferry, and I went with my best friend at the time, my roommate, and it was great. And sometimes it's landed me in strange places. Like, I spent quite a few hours in Mexican jail at one point, which is a whole different, whole different talk about it Tuesday.
Part two, part
Oh my
two.
God, that was not nice. But I survived, and I didn't do anything to get in there. You know, sometimes you're just in the wrong place, the wrong time. But it's all been part of the book. It's all been part of the journey, and I think taking the younger you are, obviously, sometimes you don't think as much about the consequences, like, you know, going skydiving, going bungee jumping. I would do these things that were amazing that now I think, I don't know if I want to go bungee jumping again. That was a little scary now that I think back. But it's been so joyful in those moments, you know, to take that leap and to not think that I have to do what other people do, and I have to have one focus, and I need to live my life a certain way, and you know that I needed to have a full-time job. If I had done any of those things, if I had followed any of those rules, I would not be where I am today. And let's start with being happy. You know, I would
Oh,
not be as joyful, as happy, and as easygoing as I am most of the time. You know.
yeah, and I love that share. And hey to Isha, my friend, she was on the show last weekend, and
Oh,
Karen, thanks for
great.
joining. Oh, right, yeah, you listen, you watched that one too, yeah.
Yes.
And you know, when I hear you speak about risk taking, I hear in a mindset of abundance in how you talk about it. Like not from a place of scarcity, like what'll happen if I say yes, but more of a just not even questioning and saying I'm doing this because I desire it, and what's there to lose kind of a mindset.
Honestly, you're so right. I when I moved to Japan, I went with a program, and they told us the answer is always yes. That's what they told us.
Mm,
Anytime someone invites you somewhere, you say yes. Anytime someone wants to take you out to dinner, take you around the town, it's always yes. And I was more of a no person. You know, I was more of a no, let me check my schedule first, let me get back to you,
mm,
etc. And then I got to Japan, and I was like, yes. The answer is yes. I don't need to check. Everything's yes. I want to enjoy the country. I want to meet the people. I want to learn the language. I want to have a great time because I'm only here for a year. Um, and I transfer that over to my life in general now, because now when my friends reach out to me, there's never like, oh, I'm so busy with work, you know, I need to check my calendar. It's always like, yes, I'll make it happen. Don't worry, I'll make
mm,
it happen. You know, if this day doesn't work, another day will work. But I think we're just on this planet for way too short of a
yeah.
time to be busy for our friends. I lost a really dear friend of mine 2 years ago, and it was very painful because I was literally supposed to see her that week, the week that she passed away. I think she passed away the day before she was supposed to see me, and and it taught me not to look at my schedule anymore as much. You
Mm,
know, it taught me to just be like, everything, what's important, what we live for on this planet is for our relationships. At the end of the day,
mm,
that's what we live for, our relationships. If you say you want to have money, well, why do you want to have money? It's because of your relationships. You want to have a better quality of life for you and your family. That's relationship. I mean, if you're really all alone on this planet, could you actually be happy? You know, if you
mm,
don't have friends, if you don't have families, and a family, and you have like all the money you could possibly wish for, could you actually be happy? That's just not possible. So to me,
mm,
relationships are everything. And in fact, it's been proven that about 97% of your happiness comes from the person that you're with, comes from your partner. You know, that's why when, if you don't like your husband, you're miserable. If you don't have a good relationship with your boyfriend, you're miserable also, you know. So to me, for me to have been able to see just how important my relationships are with my family, with my sisters, because I have three sisters, is like having three best friends, with
mm,
my mom, and just like, you know, there's this saying in Latin, memento mori, which is like knowing that you're going to die. That's literally what I
mm,
mean, knowing that you're going to die. um, that's the only true fact that we have on this planet. The fact that we're all going to die one moment or the other, and we never know when. And it could
Right.
be from whatever. I mean, if 2020 taught us anything, it's like
Mm.
how little we know about the future. So for me, just taking my relationships and enjoying them and taking them to another level, and enjoying every single moment that I have with my
Yes.
friends, with you. I just want to say yes. I just want to say yes. I'm available. I'm happy to help people. I'm happy to meet with my friends. I'm happy to. A lot of people ask me for advice and want to meet up with me. I'm happy to just be like, come over to my place. Let's have a glass of wine and let's talk about business and let's see what we can do. And I learned a lot of that in Japan.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And was it the culture, or was it you needed other people in order to enjoy that time? Like, what was it about Japan?
Japan is very different from the United States and from just Western society as a whole. People are very focused on the better for the community, not for the individual self. So when you go there as a Westerner, you definitely do stand out. And it's just a culture that's very in touch with their health, what goes into their body, just like really taking care of themselves. They have very long lives because they take such good care of themselves, and it's a culture that really, they're very hospitable. So they really help you adjust, and they're very in touch with the present moment,
Hmm.
which is very important. And I think it's a concept that's very hard for us to grasp as Westerners. Like
Hmm.
the present moment, well, how does the present moment take care of like the bills I have to pay? Or how does the present moment take care of like my retirement? But we can't live thinking about our retirement for the next
Yeah.
30, 40 years of our lives. Like
Yes.
then you get to retirement and you're still not happy because you don't have enough money that you've saved, or because of whatever the situation is. So to me in Japan, one of the things is they have a lot of details about everything that they do, right? They have a lot of rituals, and everything is done for a specific reason, like the
Hmm.
colors in the food, their tea ceremonies, and it's all about embracing the moments with people. They also they took care of me when I was there. I didn't really speak the language, and they would take me to the hospital, translate for me. They would take me places. I didn't have a car or a license. They would drive me everywhere. So it taught me a lot about unconditional love,
Hmm.
because I was talking earlier about giving and not expecting anything in exchange. They didn't need anything from me. They didn't expect anything from me, but they were so giving. And I think one of the things I learned from one of my sisters, my big sister, they're all my big sisters actually, is, I know, right? Is, when someone gives you, when someone does something for you, you don't have to give it back to that person. You can
Mm.
you can pay it forward to someone else. It doesn't have
Mm.
the same recipient. It can be someone completely different.
Oh.
So for me, all the things that I learned in Japan was like,
Mm.
when you're happy, when you are enjoying your life, when you're building your life, you are paying all that stuff forward.
Yes. I love, what you're saying about, like, it makes me think of receiving,
Mm,
right? Like this idea of really allowing ourselves to receive what is being given to us,
mm-hmm.
right? With embodied gratitude, right?
Right.
It's so easy to dismiss. And I'll just give a quick example. Um, like, even I was helping a client, right? And part of what I do is I help my clients with their resumes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going back and forth with this client, and every email was just like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you so much." And like, at first I was just like, "Okay, whatever, whatever," right? Like, here's more, thoughts, whatever. And then I was like, "Wait a minute. Like, wait a minute. Like, let me just stop. Like, let me stop and receive this and honor that it means something to her, and she knows she's paying me, and she also knows I'm probably giving like extra, right? But also that she just appreciates it,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not it's extra or right on par with what she thought I'd be doing with her. But and then just even in those moments to say, oh yes, and I even wrote her back and I said, I just want to acknowledge you've been expressed such gratitude in each email, and I receive that, and I appreciate it. It means a lot, and how often do we, maybe because we don't feel comfortable truly honoring what we're receiving, maybe because we're embarrassed that we're receiving it. I don't know. But when I hear you speak, I hear so much gratitude.
Mhm.
Um, and and yeah, and actually, Aisha's sitting here saying like, yes, we struggle with present, which causes more stress for us. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think we did talk about gratitude, and how do you see gratitude as playing a role in co-creating our life and living our best life and focusing on joy? Like, what is gratitude? How does that play in the equation for you?
I'm so glad you mentioned that and we didn't bypass that because gratitude is everything. If you want to be a little happier, just start with gratitude.
Mm,
If you want to be really happy, just start with gratitude also. And gratitude is everything, it's the sunset and the sunrise and waking up to a whole new day, and it's having wonderful things like electricity and having a bed. They're so, the more I travel, the more I see a lot of homelessness, you know, and you see how lucky you are, how blessed you are that you
mm,
have a bed, that you have heat, that you have a roof over your head, that you have your health. And these are all
mm,
things that we take for granted until we don't have them anymore.
mm,
We took for granted before 2020 our freedom, being able to hug other people, being able to kiss other people, seeing our families. Those were all everyday things. And now that so much of that is unfortunately gone, we see that. And it didn't have to be that way for us to see it because we should see it regardless. I keep a spiritual practice every day. I'm not religious, but I'm definitely spiritual. And one of the first things aside from meditation and visualizing my day and the rest of my life is I keep a gratitude journal, you
mm.
know, and it includes the big things, but I think the most important things are the small things.
Mm. And is that, because I was looking at my notes, was that idea, your morning, how you start your morning, that was your miracle, was that your miracle moment? What do you call it? You have a name for it?
Miracle morning.
Miracle morning. I
Yeah.
love that. Everybody, if you take nothing else away from this talk, which I'm sure you're taking lots of things away, like start your day with a miracle morning, right?
Morning, yeah. I mean, it takes me forever. It takes me like an hour to do my miracle morning, but sometimes even an hour and a half because I add in exercise. But it could be 30 minutes, it could be 15 minutes. And what I do is I start with just silence, just kind of just taking in the
Mm,
space around me for like a couple of minutes. I continue with meditation for about 10, 15, or 20 minutes, depending on which type of meditation. Then I visualize since my mind is already clear. Then I do affirmations that clearly state what it is that I want, but also as if I already have it.
mm.
And then I do my gratitude journal. And after that, eventually I roll off the bed and I get to the gym.
I love it. I need to like, I'm gonna have to go. I couldn't write fast enough. I'm gonna have to like
I'll
capture all
send
that and
it.
put it in the notes. Yes, I'm gonna put it in the show notes. But yeah, so oh my gosh, this has been amazing. I knew it would be. Irma, you're such a light. Like and people have said it. You're such a positive, so much positive energy and inspiration. And so I guess my closing questions would be number one, is there anything else you wanted to share that maybe hasn't come up? And number two is like, please tell people again your business uh, endeavors if people want to learn more, and then anywhere else people get in touch with you if they want to stay close to what Irma is doing in the world.
Well, well, I guess I would just want to add that, reading has been extremely helpful to me, reading a lot of books related to meditation, related to the law of attraction, to manifesting. And some of the things that I do is I use affirmations. Like I said, I use the serenity prayer. like I said. And something that I heard last night that is amazing and that is really helpful during these times is your circumstances are a test of your spiritual character.
Hmm.
So that kind of stuck with me because it reminds us of how do we want to react, how do we want to act, and how do we actually want to enjoy our lives. Um, that's one thing. If
Wait, wait.
any,
Can we just slow down and say that again? Because like I'm like, whoa, that is some nuggets. Your circumstances.
so your circumstances are a test of your spiritual character.
Hmm.
And I think, during these times of COVID with the pandemic, this is
Hmm.
so on point, you know. Um, but I live for joy, to be honest. And I
Yes.
was to my friend about it recently, and she's like, "All I want to hear is about joy," and I'm like, "I'm with you. All I want to hear is about joy, especially these times, And I've
Yes.
been, knock on wood, but even with the pandemic, I've been extremely joyful. Um, I've found my joy in many things, in my relationships with people, in I've traveled, even when other people have not been able to travel. I've found the places that have been open and have been able to, you know, carefully travel. And I've enjoyed life regardless. I have not put my
Hmm.
life on hold. I have not waited on the pandemic to end to continue living my life.
Woo! Yes, preach. Amen to that. Not putting my life on hold either. Living our
Preach.
best life. Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Live
Um,
your best
our,
life, creating your best life. We can all do.
yes. Yes. And you created the best skirts at Maine Couture. You guys check out her
That.
skirts. They're
Yes,
stunning, gorgeous.
beautiful. They're beautiful, and this pandemic is not going to last forever. So you definitely want
Yes.
to get one before we
Yes.
actually go out. And everyone from your website or who's listening, they get 15% off. So
Yes, go to my blog, Spotlight series on my blog, toscadimateo.com/spotlight series. She has two up there on there. The other one is for her Diafana learning systems, which caters to both individuals and companies. So if your company needs language learning to keep people motivated, excited, and just culturally connected, that's what I love about your two businesses, right? Like the thread of your passion is for culture. Clearly, when you talk about Japan, right? Clearly, when you talk about travel, you talk about fashion, you talk about language, it's all culture and just, right? And loving life and all of the diversity that it offers, in every sense of that word. And so, Irma, again, I'm proud to call you my friend.
I'm proud.
I can't thank you enough for your presence in my life and for helping me and get from lily pad to lily pad in this entrepreneurial journey.
And you do it
Um,
so well. You do it so well. And I'm gonna keep supporting you, of course.
oh,
That's what we all need to do for each other.
yes, likewise, likewise. And maybe there'll be a part two. We'll talk about the jail in
When my
Mexico
book is
experience.
published.
When your book is
Yes,
published,
yes.
holler to that. Yes.
On
Can I
September.
be your first interview? Can I be the?
No problem.
All right, we're booking it. We're booking it. That's amazing. I can't wait. Can't wait for the book.
Great.
Well, thank you to everyone who joined here. Please, share this out, help more people get these messages of joy from Irma. And thanks for joining. And we'll see you next week on Talk About It Tuesday. Thanks, Irma. Ciao for now.
Pleasure.